Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Manns, and I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the January 22nd, 2024 edition of the show. It is the 484th show that we have done since the closing of the North Adams Regional Hospital, and the 24th show that we have done since the announcement of its possible reopening. The April 4th Coalition's mission statement is, we are for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights and are against tax breaks for the rich and corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as is our custom, we put the emphasis on Article 23 at the start of the show. You want 1 and 2, Dick?
Yes. Number 1, everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment. Number 2, everyone, without any discrimination, has the right to equal pay for equal work.
Number 3, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, which is compensation, pay, whatever form it may take, ensuring for himself or herself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of her or his interests. And as is our custom, we give a thank you to Michael Putnam, who is the program director for the community radio station WMNB LP 107.1 for airing the audio portion of our shows at least at 6 p.m. on Friday and probably throughout the week. And to the fabulous staff at Northern Berkshire Community Television Corporation, NBCTC, for helping us produce the show. So we give a great thank you to Joanne Hurlbut, Nicole Brown, and David Fabiano for their assistance. And we've been on hiatus for a month, Dick.
Yes.
So we might be a little rusty on this show, folks.
We've been away, and a lot of, I think a year in review, I guess I brought in this Berkshire Eagle from Friday, June 30th, where it says North Adams Regional Hospital plans to reopen. Mm-hmm. Life will feel more secure. And then, that was the big news for us this year. And then in December 23rd, 24th edition, it says, what's next for North Adams Regional Hospital? What the hospital needs to do before it reopens next year. And they're planning on a March opening. So we're looking forward to that. Then also, while we were gone, on December 19th, this was the headline, tentative nursing contract reach, a vote to ratify set for Friday. And so,
And that was actually not precisely all nursing, wasn't that
that
also?
was just the visiting
Berkshire, nurses, right?
It was the Berkshire Visiting Nurses Association Union.
And the physical assistants and all that, right?
Yes, it was the
Physical
BVNA, yes.
Yes, thought so.
They're represented by the MNA, and they received what they were asking for, a step pay increase for people and try to bring stability. That's what the union was fighting for.
Yeah, that's always the first basic step a union has to fight for.
So the longer you work there, the more you will get paid. So it's trying to bring some stability there. So it's really great. Just want to congratulate both sides on coming to an agreement.
Definitely.
And I know that they're very happy, and maybe we'll have Tamara back again
at some point when
she can talk about her organizing operation.
Right, because I haven't read that they ratified it yet, have they?
I don't know. We'll get word for her. I'm pretty sure that.
I'm pretty sure they have. Yeah. I would think they would.
Yeah, I think they were very happy with it.
Yep.
So today we wanted to talk about a few things that were in the most recent articles in the Berkshire Eagle. Mm-hmm. There was a letter to the editor by a woman in Adams, and it was about why I dislike Massachusetts' right to housing rule for families.
Right.
In essence, she doesn't like the fact that there's a right to housing rule for homeless families in Massachusetts, and she went on to talk about illegal aliens, mm-hmm. And she talked about these illegal aliens, quoting Howie Carr on the Boston Herald, saying that the governor wants us to open our doors to strangers with criminal records or diseases or possible gang affiliations. She keeps going on about illegal aliens. But it's not really true that the people presenting themselves at the border
borders.
are not sneaking across the border. In Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. These are people presenting themselves
to be allowed into the country.
Yeah, seeking asylum. And they're waiting for our system
to catch up.
And our system doesn't have enough judges to go through this. And they're not allowed to work during this time. So they are on,
they are on assistance because we won't
allow them to work. But we do want, we probably could allow some to work and might lessen the burden. But anyways.
And no one in this country would want any family to starve.
Yeah, but.
It shouldn't matter that they came presenting themselves to be allowed to become citizens of this country, and our system takes forever. So they're caught in the catch-22, and I try very hard when I read these articles not to make an assumption and lump every person who when you talk about immigration, I make sure not to attach the adjectives to it, because there are different tiers, and you don't know what category a person came across. And besides seeking asylum, there are medical reasons to come in, there are just normal families, just, husband and wife getting back together. There's a ton of reasons people come into this country.
Well, we have a video by Robert Reich about immigration, so why don't we watch that video and see what he has to say about this.
Republicans are lying about immigrants and the border. Here are 5 of their biggest doozies. Number 1, they claim Biden doesn't want to secure the border. Rubbish. Biden has consistently asked for additional funding for border security. Republicans have just as consistently refused. They're voting to cut customs and border protection funding in spending bills and blocking passage of Biden's $106 billion national security supplemental that includes border funding. Number 2, they blame the drug crisis on immigration. That's more rubbish. While large amounts of fentanyl and other deadly drugs have been flowing into the United States from Mexico, 90% arrives through official ports of entry, not via immigrants illegally crossing the border. In fact, research by the Cato Institute found that more than 86% of the people convicted of trafficking fentanyl in 2021 were U.S. citizens. Number 3, they claim that undocumented immigrants are terrorists. Baloney. For almost a half-century, no American has been killed or injured in a terrorist attack in the United States that involved someone who crossed the border illegally. Number 4, they say immigrants are stealing American jobs. Nonsense. Evidence shows immigrants are not taking jobs that American workers want, and the surge across the border is not increasing unemployment. Far from it. Unemployment has been below 4% for roughly 2 years. Number 5, they blame crime on immigrants. More baloney. This has been debunked by numerous studies over the years. In fact, a 2020 study found that undocumented immigrants have substantially lower crime rates than native-born citizens and legal immigrants. Notwithstanding the recent migrant surge, America's homicide rate has fallen nearly 13% since 2022, the largest decrease on record. Local law enforcement agencies are also reporting drops in violent crime. So who's really behind these lies? Since he entered politics, Donald Trump has fanned nativist fears and bigotry, now leaning into full neo-fascism and using the actual language of Hitler to attack immigrants.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done.
Trump wants us to forget that almost all of us are the descendants of immigrants who fled persecution, or were brought to America under duress, or simply sought better lives for themselves and their kids. Don't fall for these Republican lies. Know the truth and spread it.
Passionate on this one.
Yes.
He had the camera full face on him.
Yeah.
He really
I have
didn't
to-
do charts.
I have to apologize for the technical people. I skipped ahead. I know there was another video that we were going to show before this, and it was by Joan Baez singing a Woody Guthrie song, Deportee, about an airplane that crashed in Los Gatos Canyon in California. So, and it talks about people, some people are called illegal and others are just unwanted. So let's listen to that song by Joan
Joan Baez.
Baez, and then we'll have some reaction to it.
If you don't know it, sing it anyway. We all do. This song by Woody Guthrie about the deportees. I have a friend backstage who has a T-shirt on that says, "Make America Mexico Again." You can get it online. Crops are all in and the peaches are ripe. The oranges are piled in their creosote dumps. And they're flying back to that Mexican border to pay all their money and way back again. My father's own father, he waded that river. They took all the money he made in his life. My brothers and sisters went working the fruit trees. They rode on that truck till they lay down and died. Goodbye to my one, goodbye Rosalita, Dios, mis amigos, Jesus y María. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane, and all they will call you will be deportees. Well, some of us are illegal and others not wanted. Our work contract's out and we've got to move on. 600 miles to that Mexican border, and they chase us like outlaws, like rustlers, like thieves. We died in your hills, and we died in your deserts. We died in your valleys, we died beneath your trees. We died beneath your trees, and we died in your bushes. Both sides of that river, we died just the same. Goodbye to my one, goodbye Rosalita, Dios, mis amigos, Jesus y María. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane, and all we will call you will be deportees. The sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon. The fireball of lightning, it shook all our trees. Who are these dear friends all scattered like dry leaves? The radio tells us they're just deportees. Is this the best way we can grow our big orchards? Is this the best way we can grow our good fruit? To let it fall like dry leaves that rot on our topsoil and be called by no name except deportees. Goodbye to my one, goodbye Dios amita, Dios, sus amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have it when you ride a big airplane, and all they will call you will be deportees, and all they will call you will be deportees.
I mean, that Woody Guthrie song, he wrote that, I think, in the 30s or the 40s, I'm not sure. But on his guitar, he always had a sign that said, "This machine kills fascists."
Right.
And exactly, he tried to put a human face on what people call deportees or illegals. You know,
Right.
Michael Moore says we should just start calling them Roman Catholics.
Why
Because
not?
there are a lot of Roman Catholics coming over that border right now. And maybe that's how we should look
Look
at it.
at it that way. Now, you wanted to
There
point
was an
out-
article that was in the paper. I wanted to see if we could show this,
Are you sure it's not this one?
no, I wanted to show this.
Oh, the cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoon here with, you got Nikki Haley saying this is not a racist country. And then we have Donald Trump's quote, "Vermin poisoning our blood." You
Yeah.
know, these are not vermin poisoning our blood. These are fellow human beings seeking asylum. And they're a lot of them are fellow Roman Catholics.
Right, and they're seeking, they're seeking a better life.
Right. and,
Everybody
you
else
know,
should.
If you
And
look
you wanted to point out
right,
the
on
roots.
Friday's paper, there was a thing about at North Adams St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church. There's a big meeting because some renovations are going to happen to St. Elizabeth of Hungary Church, which used to be St. Anthony's Church.
Correct.
And what we had in this community as an immigrant town, we had an Italian church, we had an Irish church, and we had a French church, like in Adams, they had the Polish church. They were all Roman Catholics, but they came to this country, they built churches, they built our community, and they helped build our middle class. And these people coming over the border are not illegal. They are Roman Catholics. They might be coming to build churches. So let's not treat them as illegal or unwanted. So I want to switch gears a little bit if we can.
You can switch.
Because I'm really upset about what's going on in Gaza. And I wanted to show a news report that was on MSNBC with Bernie Sanders, and I want to get that in here. And then I've been calling my congressmen and senators about it. Stop the bombs and let's protect those people in Gaza. So let's hear what they have to say on MSNBC.
Yesterday, Senator Bernie Sanders took to the floor of the Senate urging his colleagues to pass a resolution asking for accountability that would require the Biden administration to report on possible, quote, violations of internationally recognized human rights by the government of Israel, and to certify that, quote, no unit of the Israeli security forces receiving U.S. assistance has committed any gross violations of human rights. Only 11 senators of 100 supported moving the resolution to even be considered for a vote. The vast majority voted to just table it without even bringing it to a vote. Joining me now is Senator Bernie Sanders, independent Vermont. He chairs the Health, Education, and Labor Committee. It's good to have you, Senator. First, so some context here. My understanding is that it is already the case under U.S. law, and this is due to things that happened during the Cold War, in which was found the U.S. was supplying arms to various governments that were using those arms then for human rights abuses, that it's already a part of U.S. law that the State Department has to certify when they give weapons to anyone, doesn't matter who it is, that those weapons are not being used to violate international humanitarian law.
That's right. Chris, this is a long-standing law that says something that's very sensible. If the taxpayers of this country are providing military equipment to any nation on earth, we have to make sure that that country is using it consistent with international law and human rights. This is long-standing. That's correct.
And so explain to me what the vote was on yesterday in that context.
What the vote was on yesterday was to have the State Department do a study on whether or not Israel was violating international law and human rights. And given the fact that many of the weapons that Israel has used in the last 100 days come from the United States of America, we certainly have a right to know that. My view from day one, Chris, has been that Israel has the right to respond to Hamas's barbaric attack on October 7th, but they do not have the right to go to war against the entire Palestinian people, which is what we are seeing right now. And as you've just mentioned, the humanitarian situation in Gaza now is unbelievably bad, and we're looking at the possibility of hundreds of thousands of children starving. We cannot allow that to happen.
You know, we've had reporting throughout here, and I think it's quite established that the Biden administration, through Secretary Blinken, through Jake Sullivan, even in person-to-person calls between the president and Benjamin Netanyahu, have been urging a timeline, a vision for a post-conflict form of reconstruction, to ratchet down the intensity and scale of bombardment. As of yet, that doesn't seem like it's happening. I just wonder, like, as a U.S. Senator, does anyone have any sense of a timeline here? Is this when this phase of this war might end?
I think there is a huge frustration when we see President Biden appropriately saying that he is concerned about indiscriminate bombing and the humanitarian disaster, urging Netanyahu and his right-wing government to do the right thing. And Netanyahu basically says, hey, you know, screw you. We will do exactly what we want to do and when we want to do it. So the bombing right now, you know, what we are looking at, I want people to appreciate this. 70% of the housing units in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. You got 1.9 million people who have been displaced from their homes. They need food, they need water, they need medical supplies. As I mentioned a moment ago, children are now on the verge of starvation. This is not what the people of America want when they provide billions of dollars to Israel. And it's high time that we told Netanyahu that he's not getting another nickel unless he radically changes his attitude towards the Palestinian people and the nature of his military campaign.
Two of your colleagues, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Senator Van Hollen and Senator Merkley, both went to Rafah. Right. That, of course, is the border town between Gaza and Egypt proper. And Jeff Merkley wrote this. I just want to read it to you and get your reaction, because there's a bunch of issues in getting that humanitarian aid in. Senator Merkley writing that trucks filled with food, water, and medical supplies are lined up waiting to be granted entry into Gaza, even if all the items on a truck have been pre-approved by Israel to ensure they are not, quote, dual-use items that have a potential military purpose. Israeli authorities can and do still reject some items as an inspection site, and then this is interesting, and if a single item is rejected, the entire truckload is rejected. How concerned are people, you and your colleagues, about the specter of mass starvation, which is what the World Food Program is warning about?
To me, it's unbelievable. I mean, how do you say concerned? I would hope that we're more than concerned. We are sitting here supplying the Netanyahu government with the arms they need, and in the process of starving hundreds of thousands of children. Concern is too modest a word. We have got to act, and we've got to act now. What Merkley was talking about is not only is the bombing making it impossible for trucks. You know, if you're a truck driver trying to deliver your goods, you're not going to do it when you're getting bombed. But in addition to that, what Israel has done at the border has made it extremely difficult for these trucks to get through. And bottom line here is we cannot turn our backs on the enormity of the suffering that is now taking place in Gaza. We have got to act.
You are a Jewish American. You have family that was killed by Hitler. You've talked about that. You're the closest, I think, any American Jewish candidate has ever come to the presidency, or at least a nomination. And you were in Israel in a kibbutz in your youth. This has been just a wrenching time I think, for international and American Jews. What do you feel and think as a Jew watching all this play out in these last 100 days?
Well, Chris, what I would hope that no matter what my religious background is, I would respond accordingly. If this was taking place in Italy or in Ireland, I would feel the same way. But I have to tell you, having spent months in Israel as a kid, knowing the history of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, for me to see a right-wing Israeli government create this kind of misery in Gaza is extraordinarily upsetting. No question about that.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Would be safe.
Yeah.
That Netanyahu has become the monster he's so afraid of. He's mirroring
Right.
They
say that a congresswoman is a racist and anti-Semitic when she said that there should be freedom from the Jordan to the sea, and then Netanyahu comes out and says we want to control from the river to the sea. Now, Article 5 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says no one shall be subject to torture or cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment or punishment. And that's exactly what's happening to the people of Gaza.
Yes.
The Hamas had an attack on October 7th that was horrendous. But the people in
Gaza had nothing to do with
the children, had nothing to do with that, the women and children. And they're 50% of the population. And I think it's over 25,000 now have died. And they say those numbers are smaller than what they really are. What we have is they've shut off the electricity, there's no water, there's no food.
There's
nothing,
no housing,
no
shelter.
That's it. That's punishment. They're punishing. That's collective punishment. And that's wrong. And,
I agree.
And,
and it's...
Call your congressmen, call your senators, and tell them to stop the bombing. We want a ceasefire now.
Right. And we want them at the table talking.
Yeah, there's not a military solution to this situation. It's a political situation, and it's a diplomatic situation that has to be solved at the table talking. There's no military way of solving
this problem.
You can't kill an idea. You can't, you have to negotiate a settlement where everyone is respected and free to live.
See you next week.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past are all learned with workers' blood. The mistakes of the bosses we must pay for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full of